Hold on, I think I just found the holy grail. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 all characters. This is a 9-minute video. Surely he didn't actually do a 9-minute video of characters. Is the roster that big? Dude, it looks like it's a full 9-minute video of just characters. The roster is Okay, they got a 9-minute long, almost not, because he does do some gameplay, almost 9 minutes worth of a roster in this game. So this is one of the main talking points whenever people say, hey, what do you remember most about Budokai Tenkaichi 3? My answer is how freaking huge the roster of character was. Now, there are some caveats which we'll explain, but I want to ask you guys in the comment section down below, which character are you looking forward to the most when it comes to the next upcoming game? There was a lot that we need to discuss, so if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe for more, and be sure to post your answer to the question down below in the comment section. Today's video like goal will be 1,000, and here we go. So a 9-minute video of roster is insane to me. It really is insane. So the question is, how big will the roster be in Tenkaichi 4? Now, to really explain that, I need to explain multiple things to you guys. First and foremost, Tenkaichi 3 released with at least 100 characters. It was in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Tenkaichi 3 features 98 characters in 161 different forms. Now, obviously there's caveats in that. What that means is there's 98 different characters, literally, but then you're going to have variations. There's going to be the Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, base form. Then there's the other variations of like Goku, early, mid, late, whatever it is, right? And then, all the different stuff in between with those Gokus having different forms. So there is variation to an extent, but that's kind of how this roster got kind of fluffed up to be what it is. But I'm not knocking it at all. I appreciate it. I also really like the move changes that we had on some of those characters to kind of denote which part of the story they're from. So that is insanely big. And the funny thing is, if you were to ask me where I think the roster needs to start for the next game, it would be here. I don't really think it makes much sense to really go much lower than 98 and 160, but what they could do is maybe release some of the, or alleviate some of the bloat, quote unquote, if you will, and get rid of some of those characters on the bubble that were, like I said, different variations of characters we already had. Maybe they alleviate that a little bit and bring the roster down just a little bit. But the thing about this is that we have gone 16 or so years without a Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi installment. Now, there are some spiritual successors, like, we're not going to talk about Ultimate Tenkaichi at all. There's Tenkaichi Tag Team. There's Raging Blast, most notably. There's some other stuff that kind of popped up. But the next game is presumably a sequel to the third game here that we have. I don't know if it'll be called 4, but I'm hoping that it more is in line with what we had for the third game. So it's been so long. Let's look at how things have evolved since then with some of the characters that we've had, character totals that we've had for some of the other games. So we're going to start off by taking a look at Tenkaichi Tag Team, because I just mentioned it. They had 70 playable characters. There was also different variations of customization, but pretty much all the games have some of that. So Raging Blast 2 was, again, a game that's kind of a spiritual successor. It follows a lot of the same stuff. Anywho, sports up to more than 100 playable characters. Okay, more than 20 of which were new to the Raging Blast series and 6 new to any Dragon Ball video game. They had 6 characters that had never been in a Dragon Ball video game. So that, I don't know who those characters are off the top of my head, but that's already 6 more characters that that Tenkaichi 3 did not have access to. And the thing about Tenkaichi 3 is that, like I said, it's been 15 plus years since we had an installment in this series. So what that means is that they didn't get to do, obviously, the Battle of Gods and Dragon Ball Super base content that we got starting from there and moving on and outward. And if they really want to expand and just continue and just put every character, there's even more fun ones like Abo and Kato and just other characters that they just simply never got to do that they could actually put in this game, right? For example, we just saw Hachiyak. I don't know if he's even in that game. Like, there's characters that they can really do to expand out. Now, the question is, are they going to just put those characters in the base game? I'm here to tell you definitively, I don't need to reference this, but in 2023, I'm here to tell you, not every character will be in the base game. It just is what it is. And I mean, we have several different avenues to kind of explain that, but what that means is that the game will have a ton of DLC. If you were thinking anything else is happening, I'm sorry. The question is, which characters will be DLC, right? That's the real question. Are they going to keep characters like Beast Gohan out of the roster? Who knows? Will this game come out after the anime has finally returned and adapted characters like Moro and those characters, or Ego Vegeta? Will these characters be in an animation form to where they're going to be in games? Because if you didn't know why those characters aren't in games yet, it's because they don't adapt the manga. They adapt the games to anime. So like when the characters are animated, then they will finally put them in like Dokkan or whatever. That's when they'll finally do it. So we're waiting on an animated return. Will this game release before or after that? Just depends on whether or not those characters will be DLC. Well, answers the question of whether or not they'll be DLC, depending on when that game releases in relation to the anime returning, because it will eventually return. So let's talk about some of the other games we've had, in this time period. I can't find a definitive answer for this, but Xenoverse 2 has at least 123 characters as of 7 months ago. And if I look at Steam's DLC page, DLC is insanely profitable because Xenoverse 2 came out in like 2016, dude, and they are still, in fact, during the announcement, or not during, but at the same event where they announced Tenkaichi 4, or the next upcoming Tenkaichi game, whatever it's called, during that same exact event, they also showed a trailer for upcoming Dragon Ball Super Superhero DLC content, further content, because we have the Gammas here, for Xenoverse 2. As old as this game is, it is still getting support. We're not really going to talk about some of the other games like Kakarot or The Breakers. We're not going to talk about those. We're not really going to talk about mobile games either. We're only going to talk about this game, and we'll get to Fighters in a little bit because that game is a little bit of a different case. But the point is, this game had a very, very large cast of characters, and a lot of them were DLC. And if you're wondering why they will be DLC, I'm sorry, but the simple answer is money. I mean, look at all these packs. These packs are going to be for various things. They're going to be for characters. They're going to be for story expansions, music. But the bottom line is, if you were to be an avid enjoyer of Xenoverse 2 and you purchased all of these packs, maybe you bought like some season passes or whatever, that just gave you them in a bundle. But if you were to purchase them all individually as listed here, this is a couple $100 extra bucks, right? So they have created a model, and this is not a Xenoverse 2 exclusive thing. Loot boxes and DLC are running crazy, right? This is just how gaming has changed, and it really kind of started in that like PS3 era, as far as I can recall, and back then. But anywho, they're gonna make a lot of money off DLC for this game, for the upcoming game, right? So that is kind of what you can expect. You just book it. It's gonna happen. The question is, like I was saying a moment ago, which characters are gonna be DLC? And for a more visual, I guess, look at all the characters here. There's over 30 characters that are DLC on this list for Xenoverse 2, and this doesn't even have the most recent stuff. It's still outdated. Look at all these characters. Look at all these names, just words. So the list of DLC, really, for the game to be like 6 years old or whatever it is at this point, still getting support is actually really awesome. That's not unheard of, but it is for a Dragon Ball game, right? Because Xenoverse 2 is just that's a different beast, and it's really awesome to see. Let's take a look at Fighters. Now, Fighters' overall roster is far, far, far smaller than a game like Xenoverse, which is over 100 different characters, which again, by the way, you kind of look at Tenkaichi 3 and say, well, they had 160 characters. Some of these newer games are getting kind of close to that number. So you would imagine that Tenkaichi 4, if they at least start here, could push this over 200 forms, right? Not 200 different characters, but at least 200 forms. They could push this higher, right? I don't know what the number would be for characters. Maybe that's 140 or something, but they would get very high if they continue their trend that they left off on. Now, if we take a look, like I said, at Fighters, that game is a little bit of a different case because the market for this game is very different. This is more of a competitive fighting type game. It's not really in the same vein as something like a Xenoverse or like a Tenkaichi Tag Team, Tenkaichi 4, or like a Raging Blast. It's not going to be the same. Well, we don't really know, to be fair, what they're going to do for gameplay for the upcoming game. That is something we'll cover in a separate video. But anyways, for what we do know about what we currently have, this game's very different. So they start off with 20 characters, and there's a total of 44. This could be a little bit outdated. I doubt it, because they don't really, they're done putting out DLC for this game. So there's that. But half of, so for context, half of their playable characters are DLC. Yeah, half of the playable characters in this game are DLC. Let me say it one more time for the people in the back. Half of their roster is DLC. So, and if this was not a profitable business model, they wouldn't do this. So again, more evidence that that is going to be what happens. So ultimately, I'm going to conclude with this, and I'm going to, again, ask you guys who you would like to see. My answer for who I would like to see is actually Orale. She's in the game. She's over here somewhere. She's in Tenkaichi 3. She doesn't make it into very many games because she's not a Dragon. There she is. She's right next to Ader here. She's not a Dragon Ball character, so that makes sense. So she doesn't make it into too many games. And the thing about her is that, oh, she was before Ader. I want to show her on the screen. The thing about her is that it's a licensing issue. That's why she doesn't make it into very many games, because it's an entirely different IP. So she's the one I want to see. She could be very fun in this game. Not a very serious pick, though, because my serious pick would be a character I know they're going to do, which is like Beast Gohan. It's just, again, will he be DLC or will he be in the base game? If the base game releases in like a year and a half, well, damn, he better be in it, right? I would like for him to be in it. But at the same time, realistically, they are going to reserve some characters. That's just what they're going to do. They're going to save some characters and purposely not put them in so they can sell them later, and that's just the business model. So to conclude, I want to know from you guys again who you would like to see. If you're new to the channel, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Are you excited for DLC? No one is. But the question is, what do you think they'll do for the base roster, and how much DLC do you think they'll have? Because realistically, if the game wants to live like Xenoverse has, it's going to be putting out DLC for years. Dragon Ball is still an ongoing series, whereas at this point it was done, for the record, so they kind of were capped. Anyways, Dragon Ball is an ongoing series, so they should be able to put out more content for an extended period of time, right? So it just kind of depends on that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.